Welcome. My name is Elijah Oenga, and this year I embarked on a project to tell stories and find great minds that have impacted me and bring them to the camera and have conversations. So today with me, I have a great friend, a brother, someone who's become a mentor over time, and we've enjoyed each other's company, and every time we talk, I learn something new. And I told him, Antonio, I think this year we need to get you in front of the camera. And when he hosted us for his 60th birthday in Westlands, I told him, Antonio, you've turned 60, and I think this is your year to tell us your stories. So, Antonio, welcome to the show. And I've already said your name, so maybe we go straight to it and say, who is Antonio? Who is this man? Where was he born?
Well, thank you, Elijah. Thank you, Elijah, for inviting me. My name is Antonio Raimondi. I'm Italian, but I was born in the U.S. I was born in Somerville, Massachusetts. It's the outskirts of Boston. So we're talking about New England, because my parents were Italians, but they were migrated to the U.S. Okay, we come from the south of Italy, and the people from the south of Italy, they migrated a lot, starting from the end of the 19th century, before mostly to Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, and then afterwards in the U.S. Many Italians went to the U.S. And among these Italians, in the late 50s, my parents went to the U.S. So I was born there in 1963, but they came back to Italy. So when I was 9 years old, I moved from the States to Italy, where I grew up in my the hometown of my family, which is Gaeta. It's a beautiful town in between Rome and Naples. It has a bay. 3,000 years of history. It's a beautiful place, very rich of history, etc. Then I moved to Rome after the high school. I moved to Rome for the University La Sapienza. I graduated there, and I also had a master's degree in international relations. Okay. So let's say this is the very first part of my life. Okay,
all right. You every time we speak and you mention Gaeta, I always want to. Later you become the mayor of Gaeta, but I know we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
So you finish uni, you've done your masters, and then what?
Then it happened that I was volunteering for an Italian NGO.
Yep.
I was volunteering. I went to volunteer in Colombia, in South America, in the forest of Chocó. No, I'm talking about the 80s, the 70s, and the 80s. I was starting from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There was a lot of, volunteer work for the so-called third world countries, yes, or less developed countries, or poor countries. In that time, in Latin America, was still very close to Europe, to Italy, because I spoke very well Spanish, so for me it was easy to go down there. And now, for example, Europe, even Italy, is very much focused on Africa. Okay. But at that time, so I volunteered for them, and then when they had to recruit a junior project officer, it was quite easy, I passed from being a volunteer to work for the organization. The organization is called VIS, in English, International Volunteer Service for Development. Okay, and I became the chairman and the CEO of VIS in 1993. I was very young, because I was not even 30 when I became. I was 29. Okay. So I did a very quick career. And I've been the chairman and the CEO of this NGO until from 1993 to 2007. So almost 15 years.
Okay.
And the
15
NGO,
years of service.
15 years of service where I had the luck with this NGO that was growing and growing and growing year after year,
Yep.
under all the aspects, not only the budget aspect, but also with the offices that we
Yep.
had,
Yep.
with the activities that we were carrying on, with
Yeah.
the employees, both
Mhm.
in the headquarters and the so-called expats going
Yeah.
outside.
So if you look now, the global conversation is around Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. In those days, when you throw your mind back, do you remember what were the issues that were being dealt at that time?
Well, it's incredible how the world went backwards. Because when I started to work in VIS, it was 1991. I was employed. Okay, I became the CEO in 1993, so 2 years later. At that time, because of the fall of the Berlin Wall
Okay.
and the fall of the USSR, we all thought Francis Fukuyama wrote the end of history, because for him, okay, the U.S. model won. It was the bipolar world.
There were two
U.S.
big conversations.
Yes, U.S. Even Africa, when we would
Capitalism versus communism.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it. The
yeah.
economy market against communism, the liberal democracy against dictatorship. Okay. So when USSR fell, for Fukuyama, he said, okay, it's the end of the history. Now history has only one.
Capitalism is the way
Capitalism and
down the road.
and democracy.
And democracy.
Okay? Excuse me, and democracy. What happened after that is that the world is in a mess. I mean, it's incredible.
Which year was that, by the way?
We're talking about 1991. The end of USSR is 1991.
A good 30-something years later,
We are in a
and
mess.
we are having again a replica of that war then.
I can tell you that now it's even worse. It's even worse because now we really have war. We never had a war between US and USSR. When USSR sent missiles in Cuba, because Cuba was allied,
Yeah.
and I remember the famous sentence of the Americans that say, put off your hands from Cuba, huh? Because Cuba was right there. It was it was the garden of the house of
Fidel
the US.
Castro then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they, at the end, Khrushchev arrived and he took back the missiles back to USSR. But at the end of the day, it was called the equilibrium of terror. So both were afraid of the other.
So they were a balancing force. If you speak.
They fought their war, where, around the world, trying to colonialize. There was the so-called neo-colonialism. Probably you Africans don't know this, but probably. But I think after the real colonialism and you got your independence, what happened is that while the British, the French, the Belgium, the Portuguese, little bit, they went away, the US and the USSR came in your countries. They put puppets as the president, the dictator of these countries, and they were behind them. Okay, so one country was for the US and one country was for USSR, and so there was a so-called neo-colonialism of Africa and many other parts of the world.
I love your depth of knowledge and history, and I feel like the next session we really have to delve into neo-colonialism and how Africa has played a role in that. You now work through those tumultuous times. Do you remember some of your successes in these NGOs? What is the highlight of your career within that NGO time?
Well, several, but let me, for question of time, let me try to reduce. We grew a lot, but what was very important was not the growth of the NGO per se, is that we had a very strong vision, we had a strong mission, and we were really cost effective. I give you this example: a project brought on by an NGO, the same project with the UN agency. I'm sorry to, I'm not against the UN as such, but the UN agency, the same project exactly the same, with the same output, 3-year project, for example. With an NGO, you can spend $1 million. With a UN agency, you'll spend $7-8 million because they
They are
have
top
these,
heavy.
you mean
Top heavy.
you have to send money
Expatriates
to the headquarters, and maybe in New York and Rome and Vienna and Paris, and then they have these beautiful offices here. They have very high salaries. It's difficult if you find someone working for a UN agency now getting at least $8, $9, $10,000, $12,000 a month. Okay, so I mean, this is and then we worked. What I liked a lot of my NGO is that we worked in all the continents. We worked all over. We had projects in Africa, Latin America, Central America, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Asia.
All right.
And Asia. So I had the opportunity to visit for work, to visit through, like, for example, a feasibility study, or a monitoring or an evaluation, or even for problem solving.
Yes.
Okay, I could visit almost 40 countries of the world for
work.
work. For work. So I had to study that country. I had to know that country. I had to, because you cannot go somewhere, without knowing a little bit of their history.
So you really,
background.
and you know what they say, Antonio, is that more than a book, a well-traveled man is a wealth of resource, because you get to pick cultures, you get to see people, you get to see. So within your travels, maybe, what are some of the cultures that have impacted you and given you a lesson here and there?
Well, let me say, first of all, I have been a man that read a lot of books. My first, let's say, 35 years of life, I read a lot. As a matter of fact, I have still issues too. I have issues at my eyes.
Your eye, because
both eyes, unfortunately. But I really read a lot. So I come from the book knowledge, because reading, when you read a book, then you say, yeah, but here I have some hints. I have to read. What comes.
So you have read and then traveled.
Yes.
So you learn from
both. From both. I learned from experiencing, like I'm experiencing with you.
Yes.
We are the same human beings, so we have the same human rights. Okay?
Yeah.
But we're not the same.
Yes.
You are an African.
Yes.
You are a Kenyan.
Yes.
and you belong also to a tribe.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
I am a Western.
Yeah.
I am a European. You cannot put a Muzungu from the United States with a Muzungu from Europe, okay?
Yeah.
But then even in Europe, that we have an old culture, but at the same time, you cannot put a Danish or a Swedish or an English with an Italian. So, and even in Italy, you cannot put an Italian from northern Italy with the south of Italy.
Italians are mafias; they stand out somehow.
No, but it's just to say that. Where did I learn something special? You know what? Everywhere, because everybody, all the cultures, all the countries, all the people, even the single people, not only the communities, they have something to teach you.
So I would love to drain your mind and get some. So if I were to tell you, Antonio, 2 things that our viewers can, if you were to tell them, in all my travels, these 2 things stand out. So what is that 2 things that you can say, from my travels, I have learned this and I use it in life?
Wow. Well, one thing that I've learned around the world is for sure what we call today resilience. I met many people that have been resilient, and that means you have to adapt continuously to the situations that are coming. The situations, I mean, life is unpredictable. The situations come, they're unforeseen, and you have to adapt. And I have seen that the poor people, they do this, and the world is unfortunately extra full of poor people. They can do this better than the rich people. So I've learned a lot from that. And I also learned...
Even in Nairobi, Antonio, we are in Runda, it's beautiful. But for sure, the children back in Kibera and Mathare are more resilient than the children in Runda and
Well, here in Nairobi,
the suburbs.
the NGO that I work for is working for the street children in Nairobi,
Mhm.
and they're not only from Nairobi; they come from all over the
All
country.
over the country.
And second, we are in Huruma,
Mhm.
and Huruma is
It's a
it's a tough place, you know.
But I will send you a video of these Huruma kids. They're very funny and very creative.
Very creative.
And they are now a global sensation.
If you educate them and if
Yeah.
you give them the knowledge and skills, they become the best. You know, that is. Then I would say the second thing that I learned about Brazilians on one side, and the beauty of diversity.
Perfect.
The
I love
beauty of
that.
diversity. I mean, we are different, but that's when you go somewhere and you eat their food, you drink what they drink, you dance what they dance. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, to understand that the world. I am extremely proud to be Italian, European, Mzungu.
Yeah.
At the same time, I know very well that that is not the only culture in the world.
Yes.
That there are thousands and
Uh-huh.
thousands of cultures. Diversity, which I don't know if we will have time in another video to talk about this, but diversity means democracy. Because there is no democracy without diversity.
And there's no diversity without democracy.
That's it. Because today, more and more, we want the so-called nation states. Okay, where everybody are the same, same color of skin, same language, same.
So if someone looks a bit different religion, or speaks different or believes different, we want to kick them out. Yet you are saying today that sitting on a table here today, we are diverse.
We're diverse.
But that's the beauty of it.
Yes, we're diverse. I mean, I don't go around the world saying, "Hey, we're all the same." It's not true. You're black and white.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we're males and females.
Yes.
We're Africans and Europeans.
Yeah.
I speak Italian. You speak
Swahili.
You speak Swahili. I
And
mean,
that's the beauty of it.
What are we talking about? We can say we are the same under the point of human rights. Your human rights are the same as mine.
Yes.
And that, because human rights are universal.
Fundamental.
Otherwise, they're privileges. They're not human rights.
Yep. Wow. I think we will now bring yet another session.